Hey everyone, before we dive into today's incredible story, I need you to do something for me. If this story moves you, if it makes you feel something deep in your chest, hit that like button. And if you believe that dignity and respect matter more than gates and uniforms, subscribe to this channel because we bring you real stories about real people facing extraordinary circumstances. Now, let me tell you about Marcus Wellington, a single father who came home one October evening only to be denied entry to his own mansion by the very people he employed to protect it. Marcus Wellington had never imagined his life would take the turns it had. 10 years ago, he was a mid-level software engineer living in a modest two-bedroom apartment with his wife Jennifer and their newborn daughter Lily. They were happy in that simple way that people are when love fills the spaces that money cannot. Jennifer would sing while cooking dinner, her voice carrying through their small home like a gentle promise that everything would always be okay. Marcus would come home tired from debugging code all day, but the moment he saw Lily's face, every frustration melted away. They had dreams back then, modest ones, dreams of maybe buying a small house with a backyard where Lily could play. Then came the breakthrough. Marcus had been working nights and weekends on an app, something he believed could revolutionize how small businesses managed their inventory. Jennifer supported him through every late night, every moment of doubt, bringing him coffee and rubbing his shoulders when the screen blurred before his eyes. When the app finally launched, it caught fire faster than either of them could have imagined. Within a year, Marcus's company was valued at $50 million. Within 3 years, he sold it for an amount that made headlines in the tech world. The money changed their circumstances, but Marcus and Jennifer promised each other it wouldn't change who they were. They bought the mansion, yes, a sprawling estate in the hills overlooking the city, with wrought iron gates and a security gatehouse and more rooms than 3 people could ever need. But they still had family dinners together every night. Jennifer still sang while cooking, even though they now had a kitchen that could have serviced a restaurant. Lily still ran to her father when he came home, and he still scooped her up like she was the most precious thing in the world, because she was. Then Jennifer got sick. It started with headaches she dismissed as stress. Then came the diagnosis that shattered their world into a million pieces. Glioblastoma. An aggressive brain tumor with a prognosis that felt like a death sentence delivered in sterile medical terminology. Marcus threw every resource he had at fighting it. The best doctors, experimental treatments, anything that offered even a thread of hope. Jennifer faced it all with a grace that broke his heart daily. She worried more about Lily and Marcus than herself, leaving voice recordings for Lily's future birthdays, her graduation, her wedding day, all the moments she knew she might miss. She held on for 2 years, fighting with everything she had, but on a quiet Tuesday morning in spring, with cherry blossoms blooming outside their window and Marcus holding her hand, Jennifer slipped away. Lily was only 5 years old. Marcus was 33 and suddenly navigating a world that felt impossibly heavy without his partner in it. The grief threatened to swallow him whole. Some days he could barely get out of bed, but then he would hear Lily's small voice calling for him, and he would remember that he didn't have the luxury of falling apart. She had already lost her mother. She needed her father to be present, to be whole, to be there. So Marcus did what millions of single parents do every day. He got up. He made breakfast. He braided hair even though his fingers fumbled with the small elastics. He packed lunches and went to parent-teacher conferences and learned to bake birthday cakes that leaned slightly to one side but were made with love. He scaled back his work dramatically. He turned down lucrative offers and board positions. He said no to investments that could have doubled his already substantial wealth. Because what was the point of more money if he missed Lily growing up? If he became a stranger in his own child's life, the mansion suddenly felt too big, too empty, echoing with the absence of Jennifer's voice and laughter. But it was Lily's home, filled with her memories of her mother, so they stayed. Marcus made it a point to be involved in every aspect of Lily's life. He volunteered at her school, coached her soccer team despite knowing nothing about soccer when he started, attended every recital and science fair. The other parents initially saw the wealthy single dad and made assumptions. They assumed he had nannies raising his child while he jetted around the world making deals. But Marcus showed up consistently, often in jeans and his daughter's favorite cartoon character t-shirt that she insisted he wear. He showed up with his sleeves rolled up, ready to help with whatever was needed. Gradually, the assumptions faded, replaced by respect and genuine friendship. He hired staff to help manage the estate, but he was careful about who he brought into their lives. His longtime housekeeper Maria became like a grandmother to Lily. His personal assistant David was someone Marcus had known since college, loyal and trustworthy. But the security team was different. The estate was large enough that it required professional security, cameras, a gatehouse, protocols. Marcus had hired Titan Security Solutions 2 years after Jennifer's death, when there had been some incidents with aggressive reporters trying to get photos and stories about the wealthy widower and his daughter. The head of the security team was Richard Kowalski, a former military man with an impressive resume and references that checked out perfectly. Richard had assembled a team of 6 guards who worked in shifts, managing the gate, monitoring the cameras, doing perimeter checks. Marcus had been clear in his initial meeting with Richard about what he expected. He wanted professionals who understood that this was a family home, not a fortress. He wanted security that made Lily feel safe, not imprisoned. Richard had nodded and assured him that his team understood completely. For the first year, everything seemed fine. The security team was professional, cordial when Marcus or Lily passed by the gatehouse. They waved to Lily when she rode her bike around the circular driveway. They were supposed to be part of the ecosystem of care that surrounded his daughter, and they seemed to be exactly that. But gradually, things began to change in ways so subtle that Marcus almost didn't notice at first. It started with Richard's attitude. There was a slight shift in his demeanor, a kind of proprietary confidence that seemed to grow over time. He started making suggestions about estate management that went beyond security. He questioned some of Marcus's decisions about who could visit and when. Marcus attributed it to Richard being thorough, perhaps a bit overzealous, but well-intentioned. Then there were the comments about Marcus's parenting style, delivered as observations but landing like judgments. Richard mentioned more than once that Lily seemed spoiled, that perhaps Marcus was too soft with her because of the loss of her mother. Marcus bristled at these comments but tried to maintain professionalism. He reminded Richard that his job was security, not parenting advice. Richard would apologize, but there was something in his eyes that suggested the apology was purely performative. Marcus noticed that the security team had started to form a kind of clique among the staff. They ate separately from Maria and the others, spoke in low voices that stopped when Marcus approached. There was a territorial energy developing that made Marcus vaguely uncomfortable, but he couldn't quite put his finger on what was wrong. David, his assistant, mentioned to Marcus one day that Richard had asked him some intrusive questions about Marcus's schedule, his business dealings, his personal life. Things that went beyond what security would need to know. When Marcus asked Richard about it, the security chief explained that he was simply being thorough, that protecting someone like Marcus required understanding potential vulnerabilities. It was a reasonable explanation, but it sat uneasily with Marcus. Then came the incident with Lily's friend. Sophie was Lily's best friend from school, and the two girls had arranged a playdate. Sophie's mother, Angela, was driving her over and called Marcus to let him know they were running a few minutes late. When they arrived at the gate, Richard refused to let them in. Angela called Marcus, confused and a bit humiliated, saying that the security guard was being extremely aggressive, demanding to see identification, asking intrusive questions about why she was visiting, treating her like a potential threat rather than a mother bringing her daughter for a playdate. Marcus immediately called down to the gatehouse and told Richard to let them in. Richard's tone on the phone was barely respectful, suggesting that Marcus was being reckless with security protocols. Marcus felt his temper flare but kept his voice level as he explained that Angela was expected, that she was a friend, and that there was absolutely no reason to treat her like an intruder. Richard let her in but not before making her wait another 5 minutes while he allegedly verified her identification. When Angela arrived at the house, she was upset. She told Marcus that Richard had been condescending and rude, that he had made her feel like a criminal, and that honestly, she wasn't sure she felt comfortable bringing Sophie over again if that was the treatment she could expect. Marcus apologized.